After the assassination attempt on Donald Trump during campaigning, the future president at the time had threatened to wipe out the entire country of Iran. Who would have thought that within 3 months, the delegations of both countries would sit down twice in 2 weeks to straighten out the main bone of contention? A nuclear deal is far from reach right now, but the path towards it is under construction. Last week, it was in Muscat, Oman. This Saturday, it will be Rome, Italy. What will the US and Iran discuss in the second round of talks? Why is the nuclear watchdog saying time is running out? And is Russia the perfect peace broker? I'm Ananya Datta. You're watching Grey Zone. Here's what we know so far. Iranian and US delegations are to gather in Rome on Saturday for a second round of talks. Just like the first one, Oman will be mediating the negotiations, which means there won't be a direct sit-down between Washington and Tehran. If you're wondering why the location was changed, officials say it was done because of logistical reasons. Nothing more has been said. Nothing much came out of last week's talks in Muscat. Both sides described the talks as quote-unquote constructive, and Trump's comments thereafter did not reveal much about the talks, just his generic rhetoric towards Iran.
I don't want to do anything that's going to hurt anybody. I really don't, but Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. It's, pretty simple. It's really simple. We're not looking to take their industry. We're not looking to take their land. All we're saying is you can't have a nuclear weapon.
And we are predicting that this Saturday's talks will also be shrouded in secrecy, on purpose. So we did what we do best, look at the grey zones. And we found 3 key developments just ahead of the talks that gives us a sense of where diplomacy is heading next. The first one came out of Iran itself. President Masoud Pezeshkian formally accepted the resignation of one of his vice presidents, Mohammad Javad Zarif. The reason this is important is because he is the same person who served as Tehran's key negotiator in the 2015 nuclear deal. Zarif was in fact a key supporter of Pezeshkian during the elections and not liked by hardliners in Tehran. His resignation signals a shift towards Iran toughening its stance in terms of the negotiations. The delegation does not want to present any familiar face that could toe the Washington line. Now, the sternness was also felt during Iranian Foreign Minister's latest comments.
What is certain is that Iran's enrichment program is real, that it is accepted and true. We are prepared to build trust, to deal with any possible concerns. But the existence of our enrichment program is non-negotiable.
This week, the UN nuclear watchdog chief Rafael Grossi traveled to Tehran to hold talks with the foreign minister. He described the day as intense and soon after made a startling statement that Iran and the US were running out of time to secure a deal. Grossi described the situation with the analogy of a puzzle. He said, and I'm quoting, "It's like a puzzle, they have the pieces and one day they could eventually put them together." Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi left for Moscow this week as well. Reports say the Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei has dispatched his best man to shore up support from Moscow ahead of a second round of nuclear negotiations. Araghchi told the state TV that regarding the nuclear issue, Iran always had close consultations with its friends, China and Russia. So while Tehran is treading carefully with its arch-rival Washington, it is also keeping its enemies closer. And this brings me to my next point. Even before Iran's nuclear negotiations began, Washington under Trump had begun mending its ties with Moscow. It has supported Russia's demands in the war, had a public spat with the Ukrainian president, and reinstated diplomatic channels. For Iran, this is tricky ground. It is worried it could become a bargaining chip in the diplomatic back and forth. Or it could mean Tehran could rally its message through Moscow to Washington.
Hopefully, as I said, it will be a political solution on acceptable to terms to both sides. Iran has its own interests, including in the peaceful nuclear development, as they say all the time, and they have the full right for it.
As long as closer ties with non-Western countries are important for Russia, it will be difficult for Moscow to sacrifice Tehran. And the history is long. Moscow has bought weapons from Iran for the war in Ukraine. It has signed a 20-year strategic partnership deal with Tehran this year. The two countries were also battlefield allies in Syria for years. In the current scenario, Russia does seem like the perfect peacemaker. The recent realignment could prompt Washington to reassure Moscow and Tehran to trust Moscow. Even though on the sidelines, Putin could get a fat piece of cake from this. There is only one problem. What if the nuclear talks fail? Trump is keeping the red button on standby, which is increasing the risk of a direct or an indirect confrontation between Washington and Tehran. And there's no way Russia will try to protect Iran from an attack. Even the scale of Russian military equipment would have little effect in the course of such a confrontation. A few air defense units and fighter jets cannot really save Tehran from the combined might of the US and Israel. After the first round of talks, US Special Envoy to the Middle East Steve Witkoff said, and I'm quoting, "The devil will be in the details." And that's exactly where the story is headed, into the fine print of a document produced by two sides that don't trust each other. Sitting in the middle is an unlikely peacemaker, Russia. As the second round of talks begin in Rome, the stakes are clearly high. Diplomacy must deliver, or deterrence will.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry guards.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.